Hello everybody, I'm back and today I'm doing something interesting. I'm taking a look at the best value contracts in the NHL, and for that I have a few criteria we need to get into. The player has to have at least 2 or more years left on their deal, and it obviously can't be a rookie contract because they're all the same, so they can't really count. And stick around for the end of the video where I'll present a small theory, a small calculation of what a player's production should be compared to their cap hit. So let's get into it, starting off with what I believe is the best value contract in the NHL. And it's Nathan MacKinnon's 7-year deal at $6.3 million until 2023, which he signed in 2016 after his entry-level deal. Now, while the contract looks amazing today, it's important to remember that when he signed it, he hadn't had the best of seasons and his career numbers at the time weren't the best. And I'm not saying he was bad back then, but his numbers were underwhelming. He had a great rookie season, putting up 63 points and winning the Calder Trophy, but his 2 following seasons weren't great and the Avalanche were struggling back then. But 2 years after signing it, he's a Hart Trophy nominee after putting up 99 points, and he's a superstar. Last season he put up 97 points, and this year I'm pretty confident in saying he's breaking the 100 points threshold, and I predicted him to win the Hart Trophy. It's an amazing contract, and it allowed the Avalanche to make moves and allowed them to sign Rantanen to his big deal, and will allow them to sign Landeskog to a pretty good deal in 2 years. And the bottom line is this: if you only had to pay a true superstar and the, in my opinion, third best player in the league a mere $6.3 million a year, it's the best value contract in the NHL. My next player is a similar story to MacKinnon, coming in at $6.125 million. It's Mark Scheifele. He signed this deal on the same day as MacKinnon, but Scheifele signed for 8 years, making it a bit better probably. There's a lot of discussion on who's the most underrated player in the league, and I think Scheifele is quite underrated. Most people know he's good, but he is really good, and that makes this contract one of the best in the league, because when you have to pay $6.125 million for a player that puts up more than a point per game for another 5 years, yeah, then you have a pretty good contract on your hands. David Pasternak is next, coming in at $6.67 million until 2023. Incredible. Pasternak has emerged as an elite goal scorer, and they don't come around often, and when they do, they're usually pretty expensive. But the Bruins managed to tie Pasta down to a sweet 6-year deal, and since, he's been producing like someone that could easily be demanding 8 or 9 million, and with him having such a relative low cap hit, it allowed Bruins to make moves that resulted in them being in a Stanley Cup final, and I've said that Pasternak could be a challenger for the Rocket Richard Trophy, and if he can challenge for it or just break 40 goals, it will further prove that this is one of the best contracts in the NHL. Pasternak's line mate Brad Marchand deserves a mention, because when you put up 100 points on a deal that pays you less than Anders Lee and Kevin Hayes, yeah, I think you deserve a mention. I understand if you don't like his on-ice antics, but the guy is stupid good, and so is this contract. Yep, the contract is until 2025, and Marchand is getting up there in age now. He's 31, which could create some problems, but for now Marchand is still an amazing player, and as long as he's this good, it will be an amazing contract. My next player's contract surprised me. It's Alexander Barkov and his incredible $5.9 million cap hit until 2022. When I was looking at contracts for this video, I was shocked. I didn't expect him to have a massive $9 million contract, but I didn't expect him to have such a good $5.9 million contract either. It's just insane. We all know what he's about now, and after that 96-point season, people still want to say he's underrated. I think he's widely considered as a top elite player now, and he's not underrated anymore. But this contract is pretty underrated. It's a really good deal. And now it's time for the defenseman, and it's hard to ignore John Klingberg's 7-year deal at $4.25 million until 2022. Klingberg is a really good offensive defenseman, and while he struggled this year, just like the Dallas Stars, it's hard to ignore his past 2 seasons while having a cap hit of $4.25 million. Looking at other defensemen who signed contracts in 2015 like Klingberg did, Erik Johnson of the Colorado Avalanche signed at $6 million a year, and while they're different players, who would you rather have? I think I would go with Klingberg. Another defenseman whose contract I love is Seth Jones' $5.4 million deal until 2022. Jones is an elite defenseman, and while the Blue Jackets look much weaker than they did last year after losing 3 of their best players, Seth Jones is still there and he's the backbone of their team. He is so good, and so is his contract. So those were some of the contracts I think are the best value in the NHL. Don't get upset if I didn't mention your favorite player, there are still tons of great contracts in the NHL. Sidney Crosby's deal, for example, looks like an absolute steal now, but you have to remember that the salary cap was much lower when he signed it, and the market was different back then. And Bo Horvat's deal is pretty good too, and I think in general, as a player, he's pretty underrated. I like him. And like I said at the start of the video, I was going to present a little calculation. It's not groundbreaking in any way, and someone has probably already mentioned this or come up with this, so I'm sorry if you heard it before, but it makes looking at contracts a bit more interesting to me, and you get a hunch of what a player's production could and maybe should be. Basically what I do is I take their cap hit and I time it by 10. Let's do an example. We'll use Claude Giroux. He's got a pretty good deal at 8.275 million. Let's round that up to 8.3 million. So I take 8.3 times 10 and I obviously get 83. So according to this very advanced calculation, he should be putting up around 83 points, and if he puts up more, that's just a good thing. And last season, Giroux put up 85 points. So he's producing accordingly to his contract. Now I know it's a flawed calculation and you can't really apply it to the highest paid defenseman in the league. Erik Karlsson won't put up 110 points, but for forwards, I find that it's pretty consistent. Dylan Larkin, for example, put up 63 and 71 points on his $6.1 million deal. And I'm not saying you should use this to measure players' contract or his production. I'm not saying this is the hard, true calculation to decide if a player is good or not, but I think it's a pretty fun way to look at it. So that was it for today. Let me know what you think are some of the best value contracts, and also let me know what you think about my little cap production calculation thingy. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.